Hi guys, so I'm here again with my next installation of the Having a Chat series, and as I said last time, I've roped Sam, my partner, in to talk about what we're going to talk about. Fantasy books we're going to talk about?
Yeah, we were going to talk about how I had like a bit of a lull in reading because I fell out of love with fantasy and stuff like that.
Yeah, so what were you reading before that lull then?
So as a kid, I was like really into fantasy. It was basically all I read. I read a lot of obviously children's books like Chris Riddle. Might just be the artist.
That's the illustrator.
Yeah, I've forgotten the...
What book series
it's
was
the
it?
Beyond the...
Deepwood?
Is the first one.
I don't know that series.
They're like the Edge Chronicles.
Okay, that's the series, that's fine, yeah.
So they're like sets of trilogies and a couple of standalones, and I was absolutely obsessed with those as a child. Twig was like my all-time favourite character in anything. One day we did like World Book Day is a thing in the UK. Is it World Book Day?
Yeah, no, it's World Book Day, but I never did it in my school. We
really
never did it.
I dressed up as Twig for one of them and came second place to guys that there were a couple of twins and they went as Gandalf the Grey and Gandalf the White.
That's
so they
fucking cool.
They kind of deserved the win.
That's fucking cool. Let's
cool.
like bow down to that. You were going to get second place, unfortunately.
Yeah, so those books were big. I read a lot of Terry Pratchett.
So you read a lot as a child then, like it seemed, because that's So I guess it's kind of that's the interesting thing with us, I guess, as a reading couple, is in that you read a lot as a child, and I didn't. I was much more outdoorsy. I lived on like a lake reserve, so like you kind of forced to be outdoorsy when you can jump over. I jumped over my garden wall, and I was in like a reserve, like mass forest and lakes and shit. So I was like, it was just part of my like upbringing. So I read the first thing I read. Really was when the Harry Potter series when I was in like year 4. So what age was year 4? 9, 10? Maybe?
Yeah, you start 3, 4. Yeah, 8, 9.
8, 9. So I mean, I guess I did start reading, and then I read Harry Potter, and that was kind of the only thing I read for a while because I kept rereading it, and then I went straight into adult fiction in year 7, which was like 11, and then I read a little bit now and again then, but I still wasn't an avid reader. But all you read was fantasy when you were a kid. Which makes sense.
Yeah, almost universally. Yeah, I also like Harry Potter was basically like the defining books of our generation.
Well,
like
we're both 24. That I think you're in that kind of if you're around that age. Like Harry Potter was mentally popular when we were kids. Like everyone read it. Even Lewis, our friend, who
it's the only 7 books he's ever read,
and he's really proud of it.
Really proud of that fact.
But yeah, like everyone read it and reread it as kids.
Yeah. So. Yeah, basically as a kid all I read was fantasy. I read a few, I was quite into like biology and science when I was a kid, so I read a few sort of like...
Did you?
Yeah, actually, I owned like a book on British birds and plants, and I also had a... Not really, I didn't really read, because there's like the horrible histories and psychoscience.
No, I used to read horrible histories.
I didn't read those at all. I my family would buy me like encyclopedias and really like heavy literature. That was the only 2 things I read was like hyper fantasy or like actual like encyclopedias of science. Yeah.
Sounds like an adult reading. Okay, cool.
And then so the last sort of in First Street University, the last like sort of young adult or kids fantasy series I read was The Inheritance Cycle, which is Aragon, Eldest, and Berzinger. It's spelled weird. It means fire.
Is it Christopher Paolini, isn't it?
Christopher Paolini, yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, that's fine. He's planning on doing another one soon. I saw on his Facebook page recently.
Okay, I mean, like he's probably run out of cash because he did it a while ago.
Yeah, and that film fucking like destroyed his career probably. The film.
I never again like this is different. I never read fantasy as a child, except Harry Potter, but I don't think that counts because everyone read it and it wasn't because it was fantasy. It's because it was Harry Potter. So
yeah,
So you read that,
and then I read George R. R. Martin. Song of Ice and Fire.
Yes. Because when I met you were reading them.
Yes. I read all of them in a fairly short... Because they were all out except for part 2 of Dance of Dragons when I started reading them.
Yeah.
So I went straight from Game of Thrones, one to the other, all the way through until the second part of Dance of Dragons. So I'd read... Oh, did they come out at the same time? I guess they must have come out at the same time. Feast of Crows came out and Dance of Dragons hadn't come out, I think.
Yeah.
And I read Feast of Crows, and Feast of Crows was the worst book of the series, and my least favourite book I think I've ever read.
Really?
Genuinely, absolutely hated it. It was all my least favourite characters. There were 2 characters in it that I liked, and they were Arya and Tyrion, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
And every other character I absolutely hated in that book.
Okay. Yeah, because I've heard that, because you were talking about this before, isn't there's like books you love and books you don't like as much, because obviously each book, I think I'm saying this, but I've never read them, focus on different sets of characters. So like... Like your favourite book, one of the reasons it's your favourite book is because, I don't know which one it is, but I remember you saying that it included most of,
not all your favourite Dragons.
Favourite characters.
I think Daenerys might have been Feast of Crows as well, but it was just, so it's like, I really don't like, we've spoken about this before, I don't like books where the main character isn't relatable, or the main character isn't the hero, so I don't like anti-hero books. So you're reading...
Atlas Shrugged by... Is it Ayn Rand?
Ayn Rand. Which I attempted to read, got to a chapter where I didn't like the main character and was like, no, I can't read this book.
Yeah. You had the same thing with Catcher in the Rye. So I really liked Catcher in the Rye. And then
despised it.
You hated it, and now always bring it up.
Yeah. It's like it's my mental proof that I don't like that kind of book.
Yeah,
because
but
it's
that's
like a famous
true.
anti-hero, or I don't know what the word is. Where the main character isn't like a hero or protagonist, they are just the person that you're reading about.
Well, it's just like it's the main character who's dislikable, a dislikable character.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be the protagonist. I don't know if that's anti-hero or not, but
yeah, I don't know the definition of anti-heroes.
But I said this in a previous video. Me and Lauren were talking about it because we were talking about how much you hate Catcher in the Rye. If you haven't read it by the time you're 20, give up. Yeah. Because it's meant to be read then. And there's lots of other books like that. So, or like angsty teenage books. So like American Psycho is kind of like that. Like I feel like you should really read that as
try American Psycho.
A teenager. Other books as well. So Fight Club, I would never read now.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It all belongs to that kind of time period where you're an angsty teenager and those kind of odd reality, fickle characters kind of
as a teenager,
relatable.
you're inherently anti-establishment because you are so different to the people around you and people like above you or whatever. So you're inherently anti-establishment. But I think like Fight Club might be an example of one where if you grow up and you stay anti-establishment for whatever reason, it could be at least a definition for how not to do appropriate anti-establishment.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. So
it's not really a rallying call, but
off the tangent. You hated Feast of Crows.
Read Dance with Dragons, and it was a drag because I was forcing myself to. And then I tried a few different fantasy series. I tried the first one's Prince of Thorns, and then it's like King of Thorns. I
remember you picking that one up.
I hated it. I had a housemate that was like, "Oh, this book's great. You should read it." So
who was that?
Sandy.
Makes sense.
So I bought and read Prince of Foes. I think I got it at half price when I bought Dance with Dragons, and I was like, I'll read it next. And I just really didn't enjoy it. It felt like the writer was trying to write a really angsty character, getting it all wrong.
Okay.
So like in Game of Thrones, characters swear and stuff, but it tends to be quite intense and driven. Yeah. Whereas it felt like South Park kind of swearing, where this little kid's running around like, "Oh, I'm so edgy because I can say the F word and stuff."
Yeah, okay. And well, like all of us when we're like 13, 14.
Yeah. Like where every other word's a swear word, which I still am. I'm trying not to.
But it's now part of your character.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if this is a sweary channel yet or not, but I'm sure it will be.
You might have to beat my...
No, I'm not going to. I'm sure I've sworn enough.
But yeah, so that was terrible. Well, I personally didn't enjoy it. I know lots of people did. Apparently it gets better as well. Apparently King of Thorns is good and Empire of Thorns
I hate that. I hate when people are like, oh, the series gets really good in like book 4 or like book 2. I'm like, no, like a good series should start off good. Like I hate that.
Yeah.
I'm not one to like stick with it just because book 3 is great and I have to read the first 2 to get to it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to read it.
Yeah, so I don't...
There are many examples where I would read through a shitty series to get to the good one at the end. Whatever, so... That's just me. So,
there were a couple of others I tried and failed to read. I read a few of like my favourite books over again. So, my favourite book of all time is Mort by Terry Pratchett.
Yeah.
And I reread that, and that was nice. But I basically just stopped reading. I didn't really read.
Yeah, you haven't read. You didn't read a lot for a while.
No, like,
even now, like I think sometimes you're very sporadic with your reading. Like you go through like fits of reading, and then like I mean, at the moment you haven't read for like a while.
I've been reading Dune Messiah.
Yeah, but we've had that one on the go for a while. Do you see what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like when Sam reads, like you
it.
read faster than I do. Like you're a quicker reader. So really, like, if you had that, when you do read, you read very quickly.
I can storm through a book in like a couple of days if I really want to.
I can't do that.
When I read Chris Paolini's last book, Inheritance Cycle, I read it all in one night and then had to go to like a study, like a lecture the next day, half asleep, and I was like, oh, you out drinking? I was like, no, I was reading a book. Leave me alone.
Oh, that's fair. That's me now, but yeah, okay. So obviously, you there's like a big series that you want to talk about that has kind of kickstarted your reading again, and that you're really in love with, and which I've kind of hinted at in other videos. So
yeah, so Amy bought me Way of Kings for Christmas.
I forget I created this.
Yeah, the first one. Because someone online recommended it.
Yeah, so BookTube recommended the Way of Kings, and I was like, sounds like Sam might like it, and I knew you hadn't read something in a while, so I was like, okay, I'll give him something maybe he might be able to chew on. If he doesn't, I mean, it's only a book and it's a gift, so it's like, that's fine.
Yeah. And I think you bought it for me, and I had read it all by New Year's and already had ordered the second book.
Yeah, because that's the time when the second book was on pre-order. It wasn't out yet, was it? Because it came. Cause I bought you the small hardback, and because it was new when you ordered it, it was like the tall hardback, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because they're not matching your.
You bought me. So Way of Kings had been out for a while, so I had a paperback Way of Kings, and Way of Kings came in part 1, part 2 of it was paperback, and only one part of it was hardback.
Yeah.
So you bought me part 1 of Way of Kings. I immediately ordered part 2 of Way of Kings. So I was like halfway through it, so I could go straight onto it, and did, and then pre-ordered Words of Radiance, which is the second book.
It is, isn't it? I could check, but it's on my phone because I'm reading it.
It's definitely Words of Radiance.
Okay. Well, you know, I don't.
The next one's Oath.
The next one will be Oathbringer, won't it?
Yeah. Which is now,
No, November.
So, I read Way of Kings Part 1 and Part 2, and by the end of, like, February, I had gotten through most of Brandon Sanderson's backlog.
Yeah.
Because
I just remember that time,
reading.
And you're really passionate about it. I remember it clearly, like you talking about them, and you still do, and that's why I picked them up.
They're just so, like... So, I really like A Song of Ice and Fire, so I really like George R. R. Martin's books, but I think George R. R. Martin writes these really intense, intricate storylines that are great, but Brandon Sanderson just writes consistently great characters.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about like really intense
move me around one sec. There.
Really intense like moments and stuff like that. You just have to like, this character's great. I'm absolutely in love with every person in this like group of like 5, 6, 7 people, and that feels amazing because you feel like you're part of the crew.
No, I must admit, like, because there's always this question on like around books and around on BookTube as well. That question of like, do you prefer plot or character-driven narratives or plot books? And I never quite know the answers because I don't think I have one exact preference. But with Brandon Sanderson, it is just delicious. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah.
How well he describes characters, and like I always know who I like and dislike in the books, and like even if I dislike them, there's a reason why I dislike them.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, obviously they're meant to be this likable character, or there's like something about their character that I don't necessarily agree with, but it's not unenjoyable. It's just that
that's also not to say that characters are inherently like good or evil. There are loads of characters who are good that I absolutely fucking hate as like people in the books, and there are people that are bad that I'm like, actually this guy's kind of likable. Like he's not doing good things right now, but I'm totally on board.
So that would be like Shin.
Or Seth.
Is it Seth? Oh, Seth.
Song of
yeah. So Seth in the Stormlight Archive. Is it? It's not a plot giver who says he's an assassin, is it?
No. So,
no, it's really early on. You'll find out he's an assassin.
Yeah.
We won't go into much detail, but like he is an unlikable character to begin with, and like you're not meant to like him. Like what he does isn't nice, and I don't necessarily think I liked him that much. I didn't really get on with his character, and now more I'm reading it, the more Brandon Sanderson's teasing out of his character, the more I'm kind of like, I get it.
He's driven, single purpose.
Yeah.
And then there's.
But he's an he's a bad character that is very likeable, and especially as you go on, he grows as a character, which is a really lovely thing to see.
Yeah,
it's not like this is shit. This is Seth, sorry, and this, and this. It's one where you don't know everything about him, and like the process. Race
is a Shin or a Shino or something.
Or something like that, yeah. But the process of finding out about him is really, because you go from one to the other. I know I am. I'm going from not liking him to like kind of empathising.
Yeah, and
it's really interesting.
And he also, so there's I think you've met this character once so far. There's a character. So Brandon Sanderson has normally 3 or 4 point of view characters, and that's about it. But he has these interludes which come from different characters.
Yeah.
And you probably read an interlude where someone ends up getting chased down the street by a big guy with like a black sword.
Maybe.
Like, yeah, I'm trying to. We might have to cut this in a second, but so he's like a shoemaker.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, shoemaker. That's not a spoiler. We can say that, shoemaker.
Yeah. There's a shoemaker, and
that's quite early on, actually.
Yeah, I think it's in the first book.
I think it's in the first book. Yeah, no, he's lovely. I love him. Nice
guy. And he gets chased down by someone that you are like, this guy's inherently evil.
Yeah.
Like, but later on, you find out more about this character, and I absolutely despise the character as both a concept and as a character, but he's technically working for good. Yeah. And you find out later why. And like, yeah, I think he's just amazing at writing these characters that aren't like inherently good or evil or whatever. They are just like people I like, people I don't like.
Yeah, no, and absolutely. And okay, so my point, I guess, that leads into how I've kind of dealt with fantasy, because all throughout my you must know, like when you met me, when I was, I've always been quite an avid reader since uni. I guess college is when it all started for me, because I started English literature, and obviously in uni I started doing history, and I did I had a lot of English lit friends, and I just kind of read more and more as much as I could, because when you're studying, you're obviously studying your text, and with history I'm studying a lot of like articles and historical documents and books, and don't necessarily have time to read pleasurable non-fiction or fiction. So I always thought, and I was always a really snooty self, I
think you were quite dismissive.
I was very dismissive. I will, prescribe myself as a very snooty reader. I was always like literary fiction, non-fiction, modern classics. I'm never going to touch fantasy, never going to touch sci-fi. They're not for me. I'm never going to touch YA, which I still do now.
Yeah.
But I have courted a bit of it, and I think having met you, and obviously you coming from a fantasy rich history, and also that's kind of a preferred reading genre for you.
Yeah.
I think it took a while for it to rub off for me, but in the last, say, 6 to 9 months, it's been a massive change for me. My reading style and my reading genres have not changed necessarily, but broadened.
Yeah, I think you're like the 4th person that I've been like, you really need to read one of these Brandon Sanderson books. Yeah. And so my housemate Mike down in Sherman, I got him to read Way of Kings, and he did exactly what I did, and ended up just buying all of them and reading all of them.
Yeah.
And I know Anna Dell's read the first few, and I haven't met anyone that I've been like. Well, actually, Tom I tried to force read them, and he read them, and he was like, yeah, they were good, but he hasn't quite got on the train like everyone else.
No, but again, I think it's different in the sense of he's coming from, again, another very interesting reading preference, and I would love to do a film, a video review in Tom at some point, because I think Tom's coming up soon or something.
Yeah, hopefully.
Tom's a really interesting reader, and I think it'd be really good to talk around what he does. I think the road to me reading Brandon Sanderson fantasy was a long one. So Sam gave me the books when I went and studied in Paris, and I kind of read the first 100 pages and didn't necessarily fall in love with it. I know it was good, I read it quickly, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted to read at the time, and I don't think I was quite ready for Way of Kings. And then I think I got an Audible deal about 3 or 4 months ago.
No, so
or a bit
first, what happened was Humble Bundle had a deal.
That was it. Yeah, this is it.
So Humble Bundle is they sell video games and stuff like that for relatively cheap. A lot of the money goes to charity. A bit of it goes to the developer.
If I can, I'll link below, because it's wonderful.
If you haven't heard of it, it's amazing.
It's a really good idea.
And Brandon Sanderson ran one that was a bunch of so some of it was the Mistborn RPG. He does it's a role play game like Dungeons and Dragons or something, and also excerpts, different books and stuff, and 2 audiobooks.
which was an absolute steal when you think of it, because the production is graphic audio, I think, and I went to go buy other books in that version, and they're like really expensive. I think Way of Kings in graphic audio is £150.
Yeah.
So what were the two standalones again?
It was Warbreaker and Elantris.
That's it. And we were going to... What was the first one we listened to? Was Warbreaker. And it was on the way to Wales, wasn't it? We were going down for a holiday, and we put Warbreaker on because we like to listen to something in the car. And it was brilliant. I bloody loved it. It was amazing. And I think we listened to it on the way down, listened to it while
Despite the dodgy Scottish accents.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, the graphic audio is great, but their accents aren't always great. And spot on. And living in Scotland, like, obviously scenery change. I'm now back in Glasgow. I know a Scottish accent.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound as
There was one guy that was really good. Yeah. And then everyone else's was terrible.
But it was so good overall. Like, it was really atmospheric, really, and it was really good. So that was kind of... We finished it on the way back up, and it was brilliant. And I think I went straight into Elantris. So, did we listen to Elantris?
We didn't. No, we didn't.
I listened to Elantris myself, and I think I listened to it on the way to work, and sometimes at work as well. Again, tore through it, and it was really, really enjoyable. And then from then on, I think I took out an Audible credit because it was like on offer, and I think I realised that the way for me to read Brandon Sanderson was to listen to it, and I think I really enjoyed that medium. For, you know, obviously reading some fantasy books. So I think I've gone through, I read obviously, we listened to Warbreaker, I've listened to Elantris, and then I started the Mistborn series on your recommendation.
Yeah, so I have a love, I do really like the Mistborn series, but I think it's, so it's fairly early on in Brandon Sanderson's career. And I think one of the things that I did enjoy about reading Brandon Sanderson's books is Way of Kings was his most recent series, the Stormlight Archive was his most recent series, and I read that and really was excited about his writing style, and then went back and read Mistborn, which is very early on, and you can see how he progresses as a writer during that series and future series. And by the end of the Mistborn series, I think that's when he really starts to come to his own. So I basically, if someone's going to read Brandon Sanderson, I think they should read Mistborn because it's a fantastic series, but be prepared to know that that is not his best writing.
Yeah, and I mean, you did preface that for me, so yeah, I did start with Mistborn, and I think I feel the same thing like you did, and I talked about when I've wrapped up, I think I wrapped up the last book, or the second book maybe, on this channel. I didn't, like, love it, I liked it, and I think it's mainly because... I don't know. I think there were some characters I didn't enjoy, and the romance was a little bit annoying between Elend and Vin. I didn't like it.
I thought they were cute.
I can admit they're cute, but it was just a little bit annoying. I don't know. I didn't love it overall. But I did enjoy the the magic style, like the use of metals and stuff. That was really interesting.
Through alchemy and
the
other one.
Allomancy. So that was really interesting, but I kind of went through those, and they're a little bit shorter than what I'm reading now. So now I'm on to, obviously I've read Way of Kings, and I've read it all in one, so when I'm listening to it, it doesn't do it in part 1 and 2.
Okay.
It's all in one, so it's like 47 hours. And now I'm on to Words of Radiance, and I'm probably like 75% through that as well.
Yeah.
I'm really loving these books, these Way of King books. Or Stormlight Archive. I think the most I've been giving them so far is like 4.5 stars out of 5 when I've been reviewing them, just because there's so much going on, and I'm one of those where, like, you've been saying this, and when we're talking about it a lot,
I get really excited about it.
You get invested, and you get excited, and you'll like guess ahead, and you'll be linking it. Whereas for me as a reader, I often kind of I just let it happen, and I just kind of come across things as it's given to me, and so on and so forth. So at the moment, it always feels like there's a lot going on, and it takes me a while to get back into it. So I like reading and listening to Brandon Sanderson books in big chunks, and I think that's why when we drive down or we go anywhere, it's always lovely to listen to it for 4 hours, because I get really invested, and it's really easy for me to read it that way. But if I'm picking up for an hour every day commuting, it's a bit harder to digest, I think, because you can't really get into the world. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I think, what's the next ones I have to read?
There's Mistborn Era 1, which is the original series, and Mistborn Era 2.
Yeah.
And Mistborn Era 2 is fantastic.
Yeah.
Again, like, that's why you should read Mistborn Era 1, just so you can read Mistborn Era 2, because it's like,
Yeah.
Oh, so good. I love every
so I'm
character.
looking forward to that, and I think I'm thinking after this Words of Radiance, I think I'm gonna have a bit of a break. Just because I talked about it, because every credit I get I spend on Brandon Sanderson, and it has been good because I've been getting through his books in about a month because they're so long. But I think I need just a little bit of a break because I am also reading a lot of other fantasy books as well. So I picked up the Terry Pratchett series, and
which Amy's now read more of than I have.
I really loved them. I'm reading one at the moment. I'm reading Pyramids by Terry Pratchett, and I'm really enjoying this. I only a little bit way through, but it's like new character, Tepic, I think it is, and a new scenery as well. So that's really good. And the other thing I'm reading as well is Robin Hobb's books, which I've got recommendations from Mercy's Bookish Musing, who's a booktuber, and she was going about the series, and I really love that series. What else am I reading? I guess, do you think House Moving Castle is fantasy?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I read House Moving Castle a while ago, and that's because we love Studio Ghibli. Now I read Castle in the Air, and I think I'll pick up the next one, so... Yeah, no, definitely reading Brandon Sanderson's like widened my perspective. Yeah. I read a lot more fantasy now.
For me, it was like once I'd read that series, it felt like I was like more interested in reading fantasy, and I actually started reading sci-fi as well, which I'd never really read before. I've always preferred like a fantasy setting.
Yeah, and you've kind of tackled quite a lot of the big classics as well.
Not too many.
No, but I mean, you haven't gone for like the easy stuff.
No. I decided if I was going to read sci-fi, I wanted to read like the big sort of heavy hitters. So I was trying to pick up as much Philip K. Dick as possible. I read Do Andre's Dream of Electric Sheep, and then I went on to Dune, which is absolutely fantastic.
Another one you recommend as well.
Yeah, for sure. If you haven't read Dune, read it. Like.
Just be wary of the homophobic.
There's Frank Herbert was obviously
an odd guy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not
obviously,
quite
in a
man of his time. He had slightly backwards views, and there's a character in it who is a bad guy who happens to be gay, but it happens to be that the fact that he is gay is part of what makes him bad in Frank Herbert's head, and that's not okay.
How can you read Dune with that, but not?
Because he's the bad guy. Wait, no, okay. I know.
So, I mean, you don't like. Some books because they have horrible characters in them.
If I don't like, if I dislike the main character, I can't read a book. It's nothing to do.
Oh, is he like it? Yeah. So I guess if he's the bad guy, he's not the main.
Yeah, but then
I
want to preface the fact that he's gay should not be what makes him a bad guy. Which is the problem.
Yeah, you have talked a lot about that about how it's a bit odd and
it's sort of like, there's an implication. There's one point where the character basically commits a rape, and Frank Herbert implies that it happens because he's gay. Like,
oh God.
It's horrible.
Yeah, so just
that's really
go
sad.
in to read Dune, obviously, but just beware that there's some triggering and awful.
Yeah, understand that.
Bits in it.
While the book's great, maybe Frank Herbert has confused views.
And is slightly an awful person.
But he's dead now, so it's fine.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
His views can't get.
No, I guess, yeah. So what do you think is next on the cards for you in terms of reading? Because obviously we were saying that you're reading a little bit at the moment, and you're reading Dune Messiah, which is the next one. And is it right to say you're not particularly loving it?
I think I really want to. So I know basically people say read Dune, and then if you want to read more Dune, read Frank Herbert's trilogy afterwards. There's 3 more books after the original Dune trilogy, and the just not as good, basically. I think Dune was a stroke of genius, and it wraps itself up as a package, but there are some loose ends, and if you really, really need to get those loose ends tied, they're worth reading. But it felt very much like Frank Herbert had run out of ideas that he could run in the universe he created, so he just started making new ideas.
Okay.
So immediately at the start of Dune Messiah, you get introduced to 2 new characters, and both of them are supposed to be so entwined with the lore of like the original book and future books. Like it's like, well, then why haven't we heard of them yet? It just feels like
a bit forced.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So there's the Bene Gesserit are a group of religious cultists who are trying to create like their god called the Hishad Haderach, which is like a really important plot point in Dune. And then you find out that there's another type of... I forgot the Beze Zero somethingerists. And it's like, oh yeah, we're another religious group that you just happen to have not heard of, despite the fact that we are as closely intertwined with the politics of the universe as the
that's annoying. I don't think I could read that.
It's really annoying. It was really jarring at the start of the book, and it took me quite a while to decide, actually. I am kind of enjoying it now, but I wasn't enjoying the start of the book. I was like... So now basically what I'm doing is I'm keeping Dune in like a separate part of my head as like, this is a fantastic fantasy book.
You have to spit out, because it's just going to spill over in my review.
Basically,
Dune.
Yeah, I'm pretending all the ancient books are like fan fiction. These are like...
that's
these are... Yeah, it's not the same as reading into the lore of Dune. It's like, if I treat this as like a separate universe, that's basically what I'm doing.
Okay.
And it's fine. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. And like I said before, do you think you'll keep with sci-fi? Do you think you'll dip back into fantasy?
I took a break from sci-fi to read the Earthsea series by Ursula Le Guin.
Oh yeah,
and they were good. That was really good, although I didn't like the last one.
Okay.
I only read the Earthsea Quartet.
Up, didn't you?
Yeah. Is it Quartet or Quintet?
I'm not too sure.
I think it was Quartet. And I didn't. Basically, like there's like an Earthsea Quartet, and it's like the sort of four most famous books in the Earthsea series. There are more now that Ursula Le Guin has since written, and there's a sort of like basically like the books work in like a the first three work in like a perfect arc, and then the fourth one feels again sort of tacked on at the end, and I didn't quite enjoy it as much. It's not a bad book, but it wasn't quite as fun as the first three.
Okay. So still sci-fi then?
Yeah, probably. I want to read some more for Dick, and
He's got enough. He's got enough of a bibliography for you to read.
Yeah,
there's quite a lot out there. I mean, I've read a couple of his books. I think it was like Stigma of something Eldritch or something. I mean, obviously it didn't stick in my head very well. It was alright, but there's quite a lot out there.
There's some like Asimov stuff. Is it the Steelworks series or Steel Foundry series?
I'm not too sure.
Asimov's
Again,
got,
this
like,
is your thing.
Yeah. So Isaac Asimov's another really famous sci-fi writer.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I've read, actually, I started reading, so there's a guy online called QNTM, and he wrote a modern fantasy series that turns into a sci-fi series called Ra, and it's absolutely amazing. It's like both best modern fantasy and really up there as like sci-fi series. So I recommend that. His website's just qntm.org. And then he's got a list of like, so he's a programmer, so he lists some of his sort of open source code as well as some general good practices, and that's how I came across it, because I'm a software engineer. But then he also writes fiction, and they're really good. Ra's good. I'm currently reading one called Fine Structures, which was hard to get into, but now that I'm into it, it's like cool stuff.
Oh, I didn't know about that. Okay, cool. That's another way to read books that I didn't know about.
It's nice and surreptitious at work, because it's just like a tab open on like Internet Explorer, and I'm like, I'll just read like a paragraph of this and then go back to it.
Yeah, fair enough.
So that's another one that I'd recommend.
Cool.
Although he's kind of vanished off the face of the earth since he finished Fine Structures. He was going to rewrite Fine Structures to be the story that's interesting, it's not chronological, but he wanted to rewrite it to be a bit more readable, because it is kind of difficult to get into. But after he was like, he made some steps towards doing that, and then he kind of vanished, and he hasn't been around for like a year. He did write some stuff for the SCP Foundation, which is like I don't know, had sort of crowdsourced like set of sci-fi short stories, all set in the same universe, and like it's good. So if you haven't heard of that, check it out. Lots of them have like horror elements and stuff, and it's like a bit hardcore and fun.
Oh, interesting.
They're quite famous. You've probably
obviously not for me.
You've probably seen some like references to them online and not realised, but
maybe. I guess we probably should wrap this up because it's 33 minutes on.
Cool. You can cut it down, right?
No, I don't edit any of my videos that much.
Not?
No, it's all raw.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess thanks for joining me today. I mean, Lauren thought you'd be more awkward than you were, and I was right that you wouldn't be awkward. So
always awkward.
no, you're not. This is your jam. You're like this is what you do. So you're good at this stuff. So hopefully we can get Tom up.
Let us know in the comments if I was awkward or not.
Do you think people comment on my videos?
I'll comment on your video. I'll be like, yeah, Sam was way awkward, lol.
And then Lauren will be in there and that'll be it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll try and do another one of these. I think it'd be lovely to get Tom up and do that one. I think I want to do one with Lauren and Gavin, because obviously Gavin doesn't read that much. That'd be interesting. But yeah.
Do one with Lewis.
No, I'm not doing one with Lewis.
Read 7 books, I'm never reading again, and I'm really proud of that fact.
Okay. And on that note, see you later. I'll see you in the next series.
Bye guys.